A man who sexually abused and harassed 9 women and counting has got a hero's welcome back into one of India's most popular reality TV shows. And the women who called him out today wonder what was the point of it all. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. Today we are looking at Sajid Khan, one of the film industry's most influential directors at one point, today making a grand entry back into the Big Boss House, a program hosted by none other than Salman Khan. Sajid Khan abused, harassed 9 women, maybe more, including flashing his private parts, asking women to strip, and saying to one of them, "Would you have sex with a dog if I gave you 100 crores?" There may be many more women who haven't spoken out as yet, but 9 women, 9 women. And today, what must they be thinking? There has been absolutely no response from the network, Colors, that has hosted this program and taken the call to bring back Sajid Khan into the mainstream. Other Me Too survivors you're seeing on your screen, Vairamuthu of Tamil Nadu, have had it no easier. Chinmayi Sripaada has almost had to spend the last many years taking on a man who's been called out by 17 women. So today we ask, the men of Me Too, accused of Me Too, seem to thrive, while the women have had to pay, quite literally, the price. Where does that leave the movement? It's an inflection point for us to ask, how much has changed? Did anything change at all? Or are we actually saying that the Me Too movement could achieve this much and no further? What should we do as feminist advocates for the rights of women to get justice in cases such as these? Let's introduce our guests on the program today. Joining us is Janice Sequeira. She's an anchor, a content creator, someone who closely reports on the film industry. And for that reason, I think it's particularly brave for her to speak out. Many journalists do not, because they are fearful of losing access to some of the big guns who are being called out at this point. Thank you, Janice, for that. Also joining us on the program is one of the architects of the Me Too movement in India. Rituparna Chatterjee is a journalist, but she's also the curator of the India Me Too Twitter channel, which literally gave a platform to so many women to share what they had gone through at the height of the movement in 2018. It's a channel that remains active even today. Good to see you, Ritu. Zakia Soman, one of our best known rights activists. Zakia has fought literally single-handedly for the rights of Muslim women, including leading the movement to read down triple talaq in this country. It's good to see you, Zakia, as ever. Joining us is literally lone warrior at times. I call her a soldier when it comes to women's rights. Chinmayi Sripaada, she took on one of the most powerful men in Tamil Nadu and finds that she's still battering literally every day. We're talking, of course, about Vairamuthu, 17 women, 17 among whom Chinmayi is one, have accused Vairamuthu of sexual harassment during the Me Too movement. And finally, joining us is Abha Singh. Abha Singh, of course, is a well-known advocate and rights activist, and it's great to see all of you. I don't even know where to start because there's a part of me that's frustrated, there's a part of me that's angry, and there's a part of me that's trying to be at this point more reflective and saying, okay, do we need to be doing something different? Did we get Me Too wrong? Is the answer back in the courts and the police system of India? I don't know. But I want to start with you, Chinmayi, because you are here as a survivor. You have shown the courage of going public with your own ordeal with Vairamuthu. So first, before I come to your own life, when you see someone like Sajid Khan, and again I say, this is a man who's flashed his penis at women. This is a man who's asked women to strip, journalists and actors alike. This is a man who has used language like, would you have sex with a dog if I gave you 100 crores? This man is now being celebrated by actually one of the other most powerful sort of faces of Bollywood, Salman Khan. Chinmayi, what are your thoughts today?
It's heartbreaking actually, but it's become par for course. We are not seeing men pay the price in India at all. We haven't seen it so far. They have been rehabilitated very easily, whitewashed, and then I think one of the things that people bank on is the is this very human tendency that, yeah, we'll forget. people will forget. So who's going to talk about this? And especially when this comes to this, they'll come, hark back to the fact that, oh, where is the proof? Where is the video? Where is, why so late? The usual lines that are thrown at us. But if there were, definitely 9 women who actually spoke up, I can imagine how many more would have actually gone through this, and perhaps worse with him, and never had the, I think they didn't have the support system or the courage to speak up. It is really, really heartbreaking when something like this happens, and I hope they do the right thing. I mean, the only thing that we have at this point is to call out and to speak up and to say, how can you do this? How can you platform? I mean, I see it fail time and again in Tamil Nadu. Nobody cares. Like each time I, flag the poet being platformed, they'll be like, okay, whatever. So it's kind of
Yeah.
sad.
Uh, and it's lonely, isn't it, Chinmay? I mean, when you talk about the poet Vairamuthu, can we come out of this and go back to Chinmay now? It's been really lonely for you. You've seen, in your case, the man you called out, meet powerful politicians. I remember we campaigned together to have a prominent
Yes.
award withdrawn to him. We've
Yes.
seen Mani Ratnam finally dropping him from his latest movie, but Mani Ratnam refused to comment, make any kind of public comment on the fact that this happened, right? So that silence, that culture of silence, that conspiracy of silence, or actually what I call collaborative silence, that continues.
Yes. I think the collaborative silence is something that I have been very openly facing. Not only is the collaborative silence is a problem that I face personally, but I also I'm fighting a court case that bans me from working in Tamil films. Right, so I am a prolific singer, even though I say so myself. I'm a prolific voiceover artist, but then having an entire machinery sitting and saying that this girl cannot work just because she called somebody like him out. And even now, every other day, week, month, you'll find him at a very prominent Tamil Nadu government event. You will find female and male politicians alike standing with him, celebrating him, and saying he's the pride of Tamil cinema. Even I think in this press meet with for Ponniyin Selvan, for Mani's, journalists are asking him why Mr. Vairamuthu was not a part of Ponniyin Selvan, because he's apparently the pride for Tamil language. So you have, and that was a man who asked. I don't know who the journalist was. So it doesn't matter to them as long as you have, somehow branded and positioned yourself in a space of linguistic politics and linguistic nationalism. Then you could do anything and you can get away with anything. And clearly, I see how that works, and I see how it has, and it continues to work. It's very, very difficult. So I think, sometimes, even though I say so myself, each day I'm allowed to survive and I'm alive, I guess I'm probably lucky, because people say that you've taken on a really powerful man. Aren't you afraid for yourself? Aren't you scared for yourself?
And are you? And are you? You're a new mother to two twins. Congratulations!
Thank
Just a few months ago. Sometimes that makes us more vulnerable. Sometimes it makes us stronger. Uh, has it made you feel more vulnerable? Do you sometimes think I made a mistake by taking on this man?
Definitely not. Most definitely not. I always did want to be a mother. I just didn't know when, but I did want to be a mother. Interestingly, I mean, not
No, no,
surprisingly,
no.
as
I mean that, are you, when you said sometimes you think that every day that I'm alive, I'm here, is a lucky day. Do you feel, looking back, that, what came of this? Maybe I should. A lot of women today might feel, maybe silence, it's a horrible thing to say. And please, I want to underline, I am urging women, wherever we are, when we can speak, to speak. And I always tell women, even if you're not ready to go public, do tell one other person whom you trust, because there will be one day that you're ready to talk, and then you need that witness. Let's also start giving pragmatic tips to women.
absolutely.
But I'm just asking you, Chinmay, because it's been lonely for you. Do you feel that you did the right thing by speaking out? Do you think the Me Too movement empowered you to do that in some ways?
100% I felt empowered. If I didn't feel, I mean, I wouldn't have met people like, Janice. I'm actually, virtually meeting for the first time. So many of us women who actually really never met, didn't know each other at all. Ritu, for, has been a huge pillar of support. So all of us just came together, and I think it's been collective anger for such a long time that, like, enough is enough, right? I do not have even an iota of regret. But women in politics, women who have been in public life, did say that I'm not sure if anything can come of this, but in our entire lives, I mean, seasoned female politicians who are probably in their 50s and 60s now, they said our entire lives we have suffered this. And what you girls have been able to achieve in those few days, we couldn't achieve in our entire lives. So there are stories that have, I guess, will never get told and will never be told, and they'll all be secrets that we'll carry to our graves, right? Because it's not our story to share. But I do not have any regrets. And I think one devil may care attitude does come for me, at least at one point. I'm not saying it was not. I have had very, very lonely, sad days, tough days. I have cried. I felt like what is going on, and very defeated. I have felt desolate, but I think somehow this sisterhood and this power and this strength from the other women has always helped me through. And most definitely, I have to say, if you aren't lucky with the kind of family that I ended up
Yeah.
being lucky with, I understand how and why so many other women are not able to speak, because their own parents don't support them the way that my in-laws do.
Yeah. Yes, and women need that, and the one common thing that all women who have spoken, one of the nine women, Janice, who called out Sajid Khan, I had messaged her to ask her if she would like to join our conversation, and she said to me, and it made me feel so sad and it made me feel so angry. She said, if I talk about what he did to me, he wins. If I do not talk about what he did to me, he wins. No one wants to talk anymore about the work I do or the work I'm not getting, or my creative sort of projects. They want to talk only about what Sajid Khan did to me without Sajid Khan having to actually account for it, right? Um, Janice, I know that, from your tweets, from your comments, that you're extremely angsted. But as somebody who actually has to interface with the industry every day, this is a powerful man. Sajid Khan, Salman Khan is the host of this show. Sajid Khan has links across the industry. What is the kind of backlash that you have to deal with every time you try and talk about this? And when you look at what Colors has done, what Voot has done, what is it that you'd like to say to them and to the industry at this point? Hang on, Janice. Unmute Janice, please. Janice, you're muted at your side. Can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to start off by firstly addressing the first part of what you said. It's true. One of the ladies who came out and accused Sajid is a dear friend of mine, and we were chatting, and she said she had a Google alert on herself because she does a lot of other work. She's a writer, she's an author, and she's like, ever since the news of the fact that Sajid is going back into the house or might be a contestant has broken, that's all her Google alerts have been showing her. Not the fact that that she's a celebrated author, not the fact that she's someone who writes beautiful articles. And can you imagine, Barkha, how triggering it must be that the only reason you're being mentioned again and again and again is because of the damn show platforming this man and trying to whitewash him. And I want to tell you, I spent a really bad sleepless night before I decided to get up in the morning and tweet, because I watched the show. I have been someone who's watched Big Boss over the years. Call it whatever, for whatever vicarious reasons, entertainment, reality show, whatever. I watched it this season particularly to see what they would do and how they would bring on a Sajid Khan. Would they address the elephant in the room? Would they talk to him about his accusations? And it made me so upset to see that they completely sidelined the entire conversation of why this man has been out of work for 4 years and blamed it on the fact that he was arrogant. Really? Is that the reason you're out of work, Sajid Khan? Is that the reason why you were pulled out of Houseful 2? Is that the reason why you had to put out a tweet saying that, oh, all these allegations have been leveled against me, and until I prove them true, I will step down from my directorial duties? I mean, how dare you? And these tweets are in the public domain, right? So I want to ask everyone, because ever since I think I've tweeted, Rituparna's tweeted, Chinmayi's tweeted, you've tweeted, I'm sure that a lot of the responses we're getting is like, oh, but this was never taken to court. Oh, but he never acknowledged them. I'm sorry, okay, this might not have gone to court, and I want to talk about that as well, but I'm talking about the legal aspect of it first. I'm saying it might not have gone to court, but did this man not address it? Did he not put out a public tweet? He did. In October 2018, he put out a tweet saying, I'm having to step out of this movie because of the allegations leveled against me by these women, and until I prove them untrue, I will give up my directorial my directorial rights over this film. Where have you proven those allegations untrue? So if he's not proven those allegations untrue, I want to ask Colors, I want to ask Voot, that why would you platform this man? Why would you whitewash this man? We all thought about, I remember having a conversation with Rituparna at length yesterday, that the channel is probably celebrating the fact that we're sitting and doing all these tweets, all these panels, because for them, it is free PR.
So you're
But my
actually
point
saying
is,
that rather than being on the defensive about having him on their show, they're actually happy that suddenly we're all talking about Sajid Khan.
yeah, of course they are, Barkha, because it gets them more eyeballs. I mean, let's be clear, not everyone is on social media, right? So for them, this becomes like a conversation point where people are like, why is everyone talking about Sajid Khan? Who is this dude? Let's go on this show and maybe we'll find out. But what are you watching on the show? You're watching, oh, this man talking about, Arey, main to arrogant tha. I have faced a big loss because I made a film like Hum Shakals and I made a film like Himmat Wala. Not the fact that 9 women came up and said, hey, you asked us to send nudes. Hey, you asked us to strip. Hey, you used to pull out your private parts as a party trick. I mean, this is what we're up against. And then you've got like, so I'm just saying, but ultimately, if we don't speak up, we also have to think about that, right? If we don't speak up, then we're normalizing it. We're normalizing it and we're saying, okay, you know what? Big boss Sajid
How
Khan.
has the industry responded since you spoke up? You do a
Uh,
show. I want to explain to our audience how difficult this is for Chinmayi is living it, but it's not easy for you. You do a show. Your work is to interview people from this industry, some of whom may have, with their silence protected this man. They could be telling you, hey, Janice, just keep shut. Have you had the just keep shut? Why do you have to speak?
Barkha, I cannot tell you the number of DMs and messages from not just, I want to say, industry people, but also friends who are probably saying it out of concern that be careful. Because I think this is such a normal, like it's almost like a pattern now. The minute you tweet about these matters, you start to get the rape threats, you start to get the death
Yeah.
threats, you start to get like people pressurizing you, saying, why are you getting involved? Yeah, tera show to itna acha chal raha, you have access to the A-listers who are close to this man and his associates. Why are you screwing that up? But Barkha, my point is that I don't want those people anyway. I'm sorry. If you are going to be encouraging, and by the way, I want to also be very clear that the whitewashing of Sajid Khan has not started right now. It has started 2 years into the pandemic. Like from the time of the pandemic, go back and look at the number of pictures of people close to him, having them at his parties, having him at their parties. Eat lunches, this lunch, that lunch, him being part of the larger pictures. So they thought, oh, this is the final step. Let's put him out on Big Boss because ultimately we want his film starts in January. And you know what? A few women will outrage about it, and that's it. Then he gets away home free, and he gets a John Abraham, he gets a Ritesh Deshmukh, and he gets the rest of the cast put together. That's it.
Yeah.
This is how easy it is. It's almost like, I feel like there's some strategy sitting on a whiteboard, and they're like, this is the strategy we're going to freaking follow. But
And my concern is how many times do we seek piecemeal justice through outrage, which is what we did when in Chinmayi's case. I remember Vairamuthu getting a big award, and we all came together and we raised hell and we said this can't happen, and eventually that award was put on hold. But how many times are we going to do this? Sorry, Janice, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but let me just go through the others and we'll come back to you. Ritu, this is a question for you. It's a complicated question. I have been an advocate of the MeToo movement, and today I find myself asking, are we saying that without the legal process, we have effectively, after breaking our silence on subjects that were never spoken about, namely harassment and abuse, that we have maybe given a free pass to these men? Because you know what's happened? All of these companies, all of these platforms, and let's be clear, this isn't just the film industry. There are enough journalists who have been rehabilitated. There are men across professions and spaces who have been rehabilitated. And without that legal action, what's going to happen is these people are going to turn around and say, you women, you never took it to court, you never took it to the cops, you never took it through a legal process. So we have a free pass to do what we want to. So are we confronting the limitations of the Me Too movement right now?
See, first of all, Barkha, women have gone through the legal process. It's not like women haven't. Tanushree Datta registered an FIR. I know many, many other survivors. My DMs during 2018, 2019, some 500, 600 DMs, more than that actually, over a year. And Many of them file Posh complaints. It's just that I cannot speak about it online because these are, confidential matters, and I have lost count of how many people took it to through the process. They filed the Posh, they approached the Posh committee, they found out who the members are, they filed the complaint, they notified their HR. There were many people who didn't know what the legal process is, because you know what, I'll take this minute to also explain to a lot of people out there, especially women who go through this, gender minorities who go through this, that everybody, there seems to be this perception that only if you file a FIR is, that is the only process that you can file. But when you talk to survivors, the first thing that I and many others who working in this area, they ask is, what does justice look like to you? Because sometimes justice is just an apology. Sometimes justice is just the person acknowledging that they've done this, and they henceforth go on and say that we'll try to better ourselves. And then it's for the women, it's for the survivors to see that path to reformation, or in some way. Sometimes it's as simple as saying sorry. Like, if you remember, in the beginning of October 2018, here we are, October 2022. We are exactly in the same place. Here we are with even Chinmayi and Janice and me, you in a panel. It's deja vu. We were doing this in 2018. We are doing this now. So often, what legal justice looks like is also approach the organization. These are all workplaces. The Posh covers the entertainment industry. Posh covers cinema industry. These are all workplaces under the definition of Posh, which is the sexual
But it's very
harassment.
difficult to define the Vishaka
Yes.
guidelines. And okay, a lot of people
Yes.
don't know what Posh is. You'd be astonished. So I'm just explaining to
Yeah.
men and women out there. The Supreme Court mandates that at the workplace, women have recourse to redressal if you believe you have been harassed. The first thing that has to be done is your complaint has to be referred to a committee. The second thing that has to be done is, if the man you have complained against is a supervisor, exercises authority over you, he has to be at least temporarily removed from that role while that inquiry is actually ascertained. My question to you, Ritu, is how is a film industry? Sajid Khan, what is the workplace?
So that is, if in post 2018, post 2019, the contracts actually have been amended to include sexual harassment as one of the clauses, so that women who work in this industry can report it. But the thing is, sometimes, like we are talking about Sajid Khan right now, you mentioned that it's been journalism, journalists have been rehabilitated, a lot of others. So it's just writing a complaint to your HR. The assumption that survivors somehow have easy access to the legal process is the biggest misconception in our country. Lawyers, pro bono lawyers, finding a pro bono lawyer is extremely difficult. Finding an organization that will handhold you through that from beginning of filing the complaint to the end is extremely difficult. Our courts, especially trial courts, lower courts, have a tremendous workload. So it's not easy.
Sorry. Can I jump in here
Sure.
just before I come to Abha and Zakia to ask Chinmayi briefly? Chinmayi, you've had to go to court to fight for the right to work. MeToo was not strictly a legal process. As Rituparna explains, there are many interfaces that stop short of going to court. The legally mandated protection that you have now are these guidelines, the Vishaka guidelines. Chinmayi, do you look back and feel like maybe you should have taken a Vairamuthu to court, to the police? Do you feel that sometimes?
I don't think that legal recourse was open to me, for the very simple reason. See, I did at that point in time, what was available for us was to write to the WCC, right? No, I'm so sorry.
The Women's
The
Cinema Collective. Yes.
NCW. So sorry, the WCC is
Oh,
for
the
Kerala.
National Commission for Women. Yes. Okay.
Yes, so they
Mhm.
were, very publicly telling us that we could, send our complaints to them. And at that point in time, the union government had also said that they were constituting a panel to exclusively look into these Me Too allegations. And I was under the impression that perhaps I'm so sorry, the NCW would come up with they'll come up with some sort of a proposal, and then all of these politicians will sit together and give us some sort of a solution for something that's been happening. Because of how we are conditioned as a society, a lot of us, women, men, non-binary people, were going to realize much later that we had been abused. And it took a lot of people to understand
Yeah,
retrospectively that what they had gone through was abuse, and they were going to speak up later.
yeah,
So the concept that, and then yeah, an RTI found out that that panel, which was headed by the then Home Minister Sri Rajnath Singh, had never met. None of them had met. I think there were like some really 11 highly lettered
yeah,
politicians who were a part
yeah,
of that. So I expected too much. We were promised, हाँ कुछ तो होगा इसमें, तो
yeah,
कुछ तो
yeah.
होगा, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ. That was the point. I was like, could there have been a more empathetic leader who could,
and
because we're talking
and
about
and
them.
it isn't easier. It isn't any easier when you go to court, Abha. There is another actor, Bhavna Menon, who spoke out about what happened to her. She spoke to me, in fact, and she's being dragged through the mud by one of the most powerful sort of cult figures in this country. This is, of course, the Dilip sexual assault case that I'm talking about, Abha. Now, I know lawyers lawyers might argue, I don't know where you are on this issue, that if you don't take it strictly through police and court, your case will be weak. But what would you say to these women who believe that, one, I think Ritu makes a very important point that the Vishaka guidelines and taking recourse to that is also a legal measure. Legal measure is not only to go and file the FIR and then go to court, but two, the Me Too movement acknowledged how hostile, how difficult the legal system is for women who then remain silent because they didn't have the wherewithal to go through the legal process. But today we stand as we do with the return of Sajid Khan, not just the return, but as Janice has pointed out, the whitewashing, the celebration, the endorsement. Abha?
You're very right. I would say the return of Sajid Khan to Big Boss is a slap on every woman of this country who has stood up for gender justice, who has talked of equality. It clearly shows that as long as you are turning out successful movies and you are making money, women rights and gender justice is just on paper. Now, if you see Tanushri Datta's case, Barkha, there were 15 witnesses she had quoted, and Nana Patekar was given a clean chit by Oshiwara police station because none of the witnesses deposed. So,
Yeah.
that was one problem. Now, coming to Posh.
Can I interject? Because I think Janice has something to say about that case. Janice, were you a witness in that case? Can we unmute Janice, please? Janice?
I was the first witness to actually come out and back Tanushri back in 2018 when Tanushri first made her allegations to Zoom channel. I was the first one to actually come out and put out my tweet saying that I was a cub reporter and I was on the sets of that film, Horn OK Please. And I want to refute the allegation that 15 witnesses, yes, she did name 15 witnesses, but I know for a fact that I went to the Oshiwara police station. I gave my statement. I was there at the police station for, I think, about 2 to 2.5 hours. I know not just me, there was also another assistant director. It's not fair for me to name her, but she also had spoken out publicly after the tweets and after Tanushri's story had come out. And she also had, because we were in touch, all of us sort of, talking to each other, we were in touch with each other. So she did tell me that she had also gone and given her statement. So I know that at least a few of the witnesses and a few of the other journalists who maybe came onto the scene a little bit later after me had also spoken out. So, and I'm not just talking about speaking out on social media or giving a print interview or, talking to a news channel. I'm talking about also then sort of following it through. Tanushree called me up. She told me, I filed an FIR. I need you to go and depose and give your entire statement to the police station about exactly what you saw, etc., etc. And I remember then a few months later, we got in touch again and we were informed that the Mumbai courts, the lower courts had thrown the case out. So it's not that she had none of the witnesses had deposed. Some of the witnesses I had deposed, and I know to the best of my knowledge, at least 2 others had deposed. And of course,
The right recourse would have been that even if the police had filed a closure report, you should have gone in appeal. And if the lower court had rejected it, go to the upper court.
Tanushri has appealed. I just want to say we were speaking to her today and she has appealed, Abha. But let's come to some things that have happened. Tanushri filed an FIR. One minute. Tanushri filed an FIR. The police said she didn't mention molestation in a complaint. She didn't name Nana Patekar. The police then closed the case despite these testimonies. She's appealed. I just want to just be factual about it. But she's without work. Now people could turn around and find, but Chinmayi went through this also. The fact is, the women who speak, Priya Ramani speaks about MJ Akbar and gets sued.
Yeah,
Priya Ramani gets sued.
I'll tell you, Posh is such a failure that I'm handling two matters, one in Bombay High Court, and now we are going to the Supreme Court. So in one case, it's a blue chip company, and the victim who complained went to Posh committee. She was terminated on frivolous grounds. Then in another case, ICC chairperson who took a very fair stand, and on her report, one senior person from the vertical was terminated. This ICC chairman has lost a job. So now we are telling the courts that first you make the position of ICC members and chairperson permanent, because they are reporting to the people against whom they have to do a complaint. So there are many issues why Vishaka guidelines or the Posh committee has not been able to protect women. So these are the loopholes which we are trying now to work on them and make. In fact, the Bombay High Court told us that, look, we cannot do anything in this matter. You go to the Supreme Court. So, which is very true. Not only are women who are complaining to Posh committees in the long run in the private sector, they are still better off in the government sector because their jobs are protected. But yes, in the private sector, these are the problems. But I feel as a lawyer, wherever cases have been closed, if the police has been compromised, we know that police gets compromised a lot. So the women need to come together. You are somebody saying you don't get pro bono lawyers. You need to get lawyers on board. Create a movement where you have lawyers waiting to take up your matters. I think till the time you don't fight it till the end, it will be very difficult to be victorious.
Can I just
Yes,
quickly
fighting it
add
to the
something,
end.
Barkha?
Yeah, I want to go to Zakia. So briefly, Ritu, briefly,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So
Ritu.
basically, just to tell you, Abha, that there is a document which is again being compiled of pro bono lawyers. But the thing is, it's always upon the women. Like even now, we are, 6 people sitting here. Why is not a representative of colors? They're silent. They're completely silent. Why
Oh,
is it
not for lack of
always upon?
trying. Not for a
No,
lack
no,
of trying.
absolutely, absolutely. No. So they
Yeah,
have been tagged multiple times by me
yeah.
also, by Barkha also, by Janice also. They've not responded, and
I
they're
would like
on.
to share, when this girl who was terminated by a blue chip company, she went to Bombay High Court. The judge has given a gag order. He says, I don't want your name and all to come out. Then I said, but the people who've terminated, why should their name not be protected? So I went to the Supreme Court, and the judge says, why do you all want cheap publicity? So this is the patriarchy. This is the mindset. They feel women who are now speaking out, that is the, all the men's club has come together, and you have to
Yeah.
fight this, that it's cheap publicity women want. And that is why MeToo has failed in this country.
And I want to bring in Zakia now. The other thing we haven't spoken about is that we have somewhere failed to raise sort of the principled conversation about Me Too above camps, cabals, ideologies. We have seen this in the conversation, Zakia, as you know, around rape. बिल्किस बानो पे कोई बोलेगा, अंकिता पे कोई बोलेगा, दूसरी अंकिता पे कोई और बोलेगा, and नैना पे कोई और बोलेगा. No one will speak for women per se, consistently. And I shouldn't say no one. Very few people will speak for all women at all times on the principle of it, Zakia. And that is why I'm sorry to say today that much as I urge women and young girls in particular to speak, to confide in someone, to tell somebody for the day that they're ready to speak, some days I feel we are losing this battle. We are losing this battle, and we need to recognize that we are losing this battle. And by the way, there isn't a woman I know who hasn't had this experience of abuse or harassment, either as a child or in a circle of trust or at the place of work. And yet we are not able to create what should have been a mass movement. Me Too felt like that briefly, and yet we weren't able to somehow sustain it. Zakia, your thoughts?
First of all, it feels really great to be in the company of such brave women. Salutes to all of us, who have been fighting against all odds. I think, Barkha, it would not be an exaggeration to say that in our society, there is a conspiracy of silence when it comes to sexual harassment of women, be it inside the homes, be it at workplace. And what were earlier Vishaka guidelines have now been turned into a very comprehensive law. And you'll be surprised. It is mandatory for every business unit, every company, every organization, including schools, colleges, universities, to have local complaints committees. And it is mandatory for them to announce in their open spaces who are the members on these committees and who all can approach. And it is not only that, it's also mandatory from them to do the education of employees, both females as well as males, about what is sexual harassment, what comprises sexual harassment, how, even mere words or mere showing of pictures or mere, singing of a song with sexual connotations qualifies as a sexual harassment offense under this law. And yet, and yet, most of the Indian women who are out there in different workplaces get sexually harassed day in and day out, as they are not even aware that such a law exists. And it was very rightly pointed out by Ritu, I think. It was Ritu who pointed out that what is the meaning of justice?
Yeah.
For a woman, a woman who goes out to earn, she has so many, there's a whole backdrop why she goes out to earn. It's not always, she has so many responsibilities to fulfill back home. Yeah. And then somebody is putting impediments in her right to work and in her right to livelihood. So sometimes just the acknowledgement by the man that he is in the wrong and that he is sorry, and acceptance and acknowledgement by all the colleagues collectively that we all remain silent and we all didn't intervene when you were undergoing this kind of distress, even that can bring about a sense of justice.
I think it's so important that you've linked it to women's right to work at a time when, Zakia, the female labor force participation, quite simply, the number of women working in India is falling. Millions of women have been pushed out of the workforce during the pandemic. And when you see what happened, for example, with young Ankita in Uttarakhand, where the resort is used as a front for coerced sex work, right? And then the resort is burnt before any evidence can actually be followed through. What you're actually doing is telling women who often don't have the privilege of the women sitting on this panel that if you come to work, you've got to suck it up. Ye bhi hota hai kaam pe.
Exactly. What about the vegetable vendors? What about the BD sellers? What about the housemaids? Women are major part of the workforce, informal workforce in India. What protections do they have? What are their guarantees? And it's very easy to say, register an FIR, go to court. But, it is it's like they say in Hindi, lohe ke chane chabana hai. To get an FIR registered, especially if you are a poor person, you are a minority, you are a Dalit, you are a woman who is sexually harassed or even, sexually assaulted. It's next to impossible. But when the guys are harassing the women, when they are preying on women, there are no laws, no norms to bind them. So that is the, a kind of hypocrisy of our society. Here, I would also say, Barkha, the law is ahead of society. There is a law which has been revised duly, and the WCD under Smriti Irani has issued elaborate guideline booklets. That booklet runs into some 15 to 20 pages, where it is mandatory for every organization, every work unit to give protection to the women, who are working there. Not only that, it's mandatory for them to take action to prevent sexual harassment from occurring.
But I'll tell you what happens. A lot of times, women don't feel empowered to complain. They feel they're just starting out of their careers. Abha, you actually said the Posh law isn't working. Before I go to the others for comments, we do have to start closing. What about it is failing? What about it is failing in particular, Abha?
One thing is that in the private sector, especially because all this comes under the private sector, even the Bollywood, at least in the corporate, the cases which I'm handling, the ICC members, 2 members are from the same company where they are working. So how
that's the law. But that is the law.
But the thing is, how do you take a decision against your boss if if a sexual harassment matter comes? Then forget that. Then the chairman also. These are, real cases where both women have lost their jobs. One is a complainant, one is a victim of sexual harassment, and other is the chairperson of ICC. And why the ICC chairperson was terminated? Because in spite of she being told that do not do anything, go soft, she said I had 5 women complaining that they had suffered sexual harassment. After that, if I did not do my job. So what we are telling the court, that when you say Posh members are civil judges, you are giving them the role of a judge. They can summon, they can record your statements. So on one hand, they have the powers of a civil judge. Then why don't you give them protection? that they will not be transferred, they will not be
Yeah.
terminated. But in fact, one of the suggestions which I have given, that if any Posh committee member is terminated or harassed, NCC should be connected. NCW, sorry, NCW should know, and they should be informed that these women are being terminated because they were ICC members. So till the time you don't strengthen them, if the ICC members themselves lose their jobs, are they going to come out and protect?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. I just was smiling cynically because I was thinking there's Sajid Khan and Big Boss, and they're the convicted rapists of Bilkis Bano being greeted with garlands. So, we are in a strange sort of time. Some days it feels like it's everything is frozen, nothing has moved. But we want to be encouraging of women to speak. And right now, I don't know how we can do that, Janice, when you have another Me Too accused who has a big film coming out this Friday, right? I'm talking, of course, about Vikas Behel, that company which was accused of mismanaging sexual harassment complaints, since disbanded, but he's got a solo big blockbuster coming out. Janice, thoughts?
This is a particularly triggering week, Barkha. There was a comedian whose company sort of had to, like the company went bust because there were allegations of, the comedian being complicit about workplace harassment with regard to the female employees. There is a filmmaker who has been given a hero sort of welcome and a hero sort of platform on a huge reality show. And then there is another filmmaker who has a release this Friday, who is working with Amitabh Bachchan and Rashmika Mandana, two huge stars. This is a particularly triggering week for women everywhere. I mean, how, we're sitting here and we're talking about, like, what can we do, what guidelines, how do you approach the police, this and that. I mean, when you see all of this, where do we even bring the courage from? You're like, what is the difference? And I want to, because this is a comment I get constantly, like all my trolls, all the people who are trolling me are like, why didn't they go to the cops? Why didn't they file an FIR? Have you ever gone as a victim or even as a witness and sat and deposed in front of a cop for 2 hours? I can tell you, I was deposing in Tanushri's case. And I cannot tell you, Barkha, how uncomfortable that entire experience was. आपने देखा क्या? कैसे छुआ? कहाँ पे छुआ? The kind of questions, it's not even like a female cop was sitting and asking me to depose, it was a male cop. And as a woman, I'm having to relate another woman's experience and then sit there. And then if I'm feeling so disgusted and so, like, I'm feeling so, what the word is, I'm feeling so icky about the whole experience. I can't even imagine how difficult it must have been for Tanushri to go and relay her experience.
Yeah.
So where is also, I want to point out one thing, because Ritu was talking earlier about the different places people can approach. The Indian Film and Television's Directors and Producers Association, I might be getting the entire full form, it's a very long name, wrong, did actually suspend Sajid Khan for an entire year. And this is after, because the women didn't want to go and take it as a legal case. So they said, okay, you know what, we'll have a closed door meeting and you guys can come and tell us exactly what your instances were and what happened. And after they heard out, I think about 4 or 5 of the victim stories, or the survivor stories, as I want to call them, is when they actually banned him from doing any work in the industry for an entire year. So to people who say that, where was he found guilty? To people who ask, like, oh, what proof do you have? I want to say that his own industry banned him for an entire year. I want to say that he himself had to put out a tweet in the public domain, which is still there, which says that until I prove these allegations wrong, I will not take on any directorial. Where have you kept your word? Where? And I want to ask Colors that question, that if other organizations have found him guilty, on what basis have you platformed this man? And you know what? I don't even have a problem. Sorry, I just want to wrap this up by saying one thing. I don't even have a problem that much. I mean, we know how reality shows function across the globe, right? You want these controversial figures for your TRPs, but have the guts to ask the person what they're on the show for. Don't mask it and say, oh, it was my arrogance and this and that. Ask him. 9 women called you out, Sajid. 9 women have said these things about you. Then have the courage to talk about that on national TV, and then let's see. Then, you know what? I'd actually maybe applaud them and say, oh, you know what? You took this story to the entire country, but they'll never do it.
Yeah. Ritu, you want to add to that? Then Zakia and Chinmayi, I've got to start ending. Yeah, Ritu?
Because we have two lawyers here, over what had happened over the last 4 years in real time, in real life, is the slew of defamation cases that women faced, or the threat of defamation cases. It acted
Yeah.
as such a chilling factor that a person who was willing to speak up suddenly withdrawn and asked me, delete the tweets, I don't want to, because I cannot afford to lose my job,
Yeah.
I cannot afford my parents to throw me out, I cannot afford my in-laws to get involved. So defamation, criminal defamation, has been used as a weapon against women who speak up. So unless we fix that, unless we have the people have protection against legal prosecution, I don't think this is women will have the courage to speak up.
So Zakia, I think you made an important point that there has to also be sometimes self-love, an acknowledgement that all of us here have taken on all kinds of demons at different stages in life. But how do we, with any sort of authenticity, tell women today, speak up, it's worth it? How do we tell them that when they're seeing all this?
So one is by speaking about whatever we have undergone. We should not be ashamed because we have not done anything wrong. That guy has done all the wrong. So why should we be quiet? We should speak out. That will encourage more women to speak also. I think it's time to demand a public apology from Sajid Khan and whoever are the creatures like that, and that should be a collective demand coming from all corners of India, and we should encourage women to come out, because it's not their fault. The fault lies with somebody else, and the more we keep quiet, the more the incidents of sexual harassment will go on. The impunity that they enjoy, that needs to be broken, and that can be only broken by we supporting each other and we sort of walking the extra mile, because we know that at the end of the day, he is guilty. In his heart he knows he is guilty, and all those who know him also knows he is guilty. So it's
Yeah.
just that we need to put our act
But
together, which has been done through the MeToo movement. Very very sort of really
yeah.
glad that has happened. But we have to keep up the momentum,
But I
so this
I
is a good
just
option to demand
I,
a public apology.
And I will say again and again that you do not know when in your life you may be ready to actually speak. It may not be in real time. It could happen a few years later. It could happen months later. Just tell one other person. Record it somewhere. Keep a note of it in your diary. Mention who else was there. These are they may sound very small things, but you never know. As Janice said, you will be interrogated. You will sometimes be punished, and these details may feel hazy after a few years, but you will need them then. Chinmay, I'm ending with you, and you do remind us, of course, of a case where a complainant, somebody who speaks out on Me Too, actually ends up having her passport impounded. So, these are things that we need to acknowledge. This is not easy. It is not easy. You're not in some safe space where you call somebody out and people are going to believe you and then justice is going to follow. But as Zakia reminds us, we've got to keep going. Chinmay, last thoughts?
I agree. I am also going to say that speak out if you're ready. It's not an easy path. Speak up if you believe that you have the support, and don't expect anybody to do the right thing. People do what is convenient. People don't do what is right.
Well,
That's
that's really grim note to end on. But you have felt that the fight is worth it. You personally, despite
I
everything you've lost over it, including the right to be what you love, a
yes.
singer.
I feel free though. I'm free. I'm no
Yeah.
longer in this trap of having have to celebrate the man, celebrate and say, हाँ हाँ बहुत बड़े आदमी है, कितने निगज काम किया है. I don't have to do any of that trope. Like I am free from the drama, and having have to, I can call the man what he is and be free. And I do not expect anything. So because some of the most respectable people in the Tamil industry try to arrive at a compromise. So in Tamil cinema, there is this big joke when it's very sad, it's grim, but it is a big joke when they say somebody has been molested or assaulted by a man. They say, "Coop to a compromise பேசிடலாம். Let us call them and get them compromised." And earlier, Tamil cinema used to, cinema in general used to marry off the assaulter
Yeah.
and the victim, right? So I came to say, I did ask them, so what do you mean by compromise? Are you going to now get me married again to the man? Is that Was that what
Yeah.
your compromise is going to be? It's sad that I had to joke about it, but yeah, it came. It was. I was talking about myself and I joked about myself, but it's
Yeah.
it's as ugly as it gets.
Yeah, humor comes out in odd ways when the fight is so exhausting. I just have to take a moment to say thank you to each one of you, because I think, as has been pointed out, it is lonely at another level. It is isolating at another level to speak. The backlash is enormous. Your integrity is questioned. Your truth-telling capacity is questioned. You're called all sorts of names. You're never correct enough for one person or the other. It is exhausting. It is emotionally exhausting, and for many women, it is financially depleting. It is, we have to acknowledge relative privilege here. There are all kinds of intersections of caste and class, and putting that on the table there. So thank you to each one of you who, in a hostile environment, has chosen to speak. We've got to keep fighting the good fight. I remember I was once interviewing Hillary Clinton, and whatever else you may say or think of her, she's a fighter. And she said, what really infuriates people is when women just keep going. So just keep going. It doesn't always feel worth it, but it is worth it in the end. And as Chinmayi said, you will feel free for being yourself. Thank you, Ritu, Janice, Abha, Zakia, and more power to you, Chinmayi, and to each woman here, and to each woman listening who may have ambivalence about speaking. Speak when you're ready, but do tell someone. To hold it within you is actually the most depleting and lonely thing of all. Thank you very much. And Colors and Voots, if you're listening, and I hope you are, we aren't done yet with asking you questions, and we do expect an answer. So, waiting eagerly for that answer to come. Thank you very much. See you, everyone. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Vote Her Story and support independent, robust journalism.